Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, so today in continuation with what I was talking yesterday I gave you the big picture, right, about all the domains which we will be covering, and if you had reflected back after the lecture, you would have seen that, and it covers pretty much everything, right, everything around you and including you, right. So, it is a very, very vast domain, and that is the biggest attraction in this particular field, right. You can pick and choose from a huge range of subjects which it can fall, you can never say that this is not my domain of interest, right. There will always be something which is interesting because it is so huge and it is so, it covers almost everything, right, from computers to biology, okay. So, today I want to share with you some of the projects, most of them will be our own projects, so that we are not just talking something which is happening somewhere, it should be real to you, right. And if you are if you want to be involved, it is already happening, okay. So, I want to share some of the interesting projects which we are doing on the field, okay, and also some which has been done outside just to trigger your inspiration, okay. So, we do not have much time, so I will just go directly. So, this kind of gives you an idea, okay, what you will be doing as a when you graduate as a civil engineer with you take a few courses in environmental engineering, at least 3 courses you will be taking under lab during your civil engineering program, okay. And if you choose to do dual degree or masters, then you get to specialize and learn more about some of the basics which were taught to you in your undergraduate program. So, what you would expect when you go out to work, okay, as a civil or environmental engineer, you will be doing basic stuff. What you learn in your BTech is all about water, wastewater and solid waste, the essence of it, and air. You will be introduced to all this more in depth on water and wastewater, okay. So, because why it is linked to civil engineering, although the domain is so vast, is because it all started there. People started thinking about water when they started building buildings, right. So, people living in the buildings have to be supplied with water, good quality water, okay. And then what happens when you supply water? The wastewater comes back, right. You need to have a way to dispose this safely and without causing any inconvenience. So, wastewater research and engineering started, and you also generate a lot of waste, right, solid waste, whatever you use you throw, right, which you do not consume. So, that's the very little, the crux of what civil engineers learn, okay, very, very small domain among that huge domain what yesterday I was showing you, okay. So, that is all you will be taught, and some exposure to air, because we also breathe air in the indoor environment. We would like to know what is that which we should be worried about, okay, and how do we manage these things, okay. If they are not good, how to make them good for human utilization, okay. So, apart from that, built environment related environmental engineering, when you go and do a master's or a dual degree or a project in environmental engineering, you will be looking at a much larger domain. Environmental assessments is a very important job of all environmental engineers, right. So, when you go out, okay, you see everything is so dirty, right. So, how do we make an assessment? The soil is dirty, the water is dirty in your rivers, okay, and lakes. So, we need to have an understanding of how to make assessments, how to sample, right, what is the sample frequency, okay, and how do we analyze these samples, take it back to the lab, okay. All that fundamentals will be taught to you obviously when you are learning about water in your B.Tech environmental engineering course. Okay, so we do a lot of assessments. Environmental engineers, if you talk to any of the practicing engineers, they do a lot of assessments and they prepare reports about these assessments, about the condition, not only the condition, we should also know how to treat it, okay, how to make it better. Okay, so you should know how to do assessments, and then you should also know how to engineer the systems, okay, to make it better. And the assessments range from surface water, groundwater, okay, soil, air, waste, ocean, everything. Industry becomes a very important job when you become regulators, right, when you become pollution control board engineers. That is their primary job, okay, they are like policemen going after industries, okay. Are they polluting the environment, discharges coming from the industries, okay. So, we do that, and then this is the past spills which have happened in the past, and then it is contaminating now. What is contaminating now? What is coming out of these industries now? So, past and present. And then the third category what I have listed is environmental impact assessment. This is for futuristic projects, right. It is a very important role what the Ministry of Environment and Forest is doing, right. Planning for, there are a lot of development activities happening, right, from building large highways, metro projects, right, huge commercial buildings, apartment buildings, industries, thermal power plants, you can name it, anything which is a project, okay, a big project has to go through environmental impact assessment, we call it EIA, okay. And the very word EIA worries all these developers and now even politicians, okay, they are trying to make it less and less stringent, okay, unfortunately. So, this is futuristic. So, even before the project goes on paper, right, detailed design of a project goes on a paper, the idea of the project itself, okay, has to be scrutinized, okay. If this project of this scale comes up in this particular place, right, then what will be the impact to the environment, water, air, everything, okay. So, this is futuristic assessment with our knowledge of the past, okay, and the baseline conditions of that particular site. If that particular site is already stressed with other developmental activities, okay, and can it take this additional, yesterday we talked about carrying capacity, right, can this take this additional load without exceeding the carrying capacity of that environment, okay. So, a lot of thought and assessment goes into developing these EIA reports, okay, which are fundamental for getting approvals for these projects, okay. So, there are like big consultants working on EIA reports of upcoming projects, okay, and there is a lot of activity, good, bad, around getting all these approvals, right. So, that is a major job, and then comes cleanup, okay. Cleanup is not very easy, it is easy to mess up, okay, just like how we mess up our homes, okay. We do not like cleanup because it is a lot of chore, right, it takes lot of time, it takes very little time to mess up, right. Same thing happens to the environment, right, it takes a lot of time, lot of money, okay, lot of technology, okay. So, it is better we do not mess up in the first place, okay. If we do it responsibly, development can happen responsibly, okay, then that is a whole different area on cleanup where civil engineers cannot do it alone, and we need help from chemical engineers, we need help from geotechnical engineers, geologists, okay, all of them are involved in major cleanup activities, okay. So, and then, so with all this, okay, you can end up being whatever you want to be, whatever role you want to be, play in this array of work where you want to be involved. You can be a designer, you can be a builder, you can be an on-site engineer doing all these sampling and building these remediation systems. You can be a consultant sitting and planning and designing these, okay. You can be policy advisors, Okay, when as you grow up the ladder, you are called for advising your expert opinion. Once you don't have to grow with age, you can grow with knowledge, right? Even at a young age, you can become a policy advisor if your profile is there. Okay, so you are most sought after person once you develop yourself into a domain expert. Okay, people call you, consultants call you, the government calls you, okay, international bodies call you, Supreme Court calls you, like many of us are go to these type of roles. Okay, when the Bhopal tragedy happened very recently, there was a case again about Bhopal. Okay, so Supreme Court wanted an opinion from us. Okay, looking at the situation, what is your opinion? So you will become the most sought after person in when it comes to design or litigations, okay, or developing a policy document, or again there are options if those who are motivated to become academicians, you can become educators, okay, and researchers. There is a whole lot of research. Okay, environment is a subject, even though a lot of research has gone by, we still have new problems coming up every day, right? Every time the chemical engineer or the chemist creates a compound, it may be for pharma or pesticide, okay, they have created a problem, they have created a job for us, okay, because that chemical is going to end up in the environment, and it becomes the environmental engineer's job to see how to clean it up, okay, how to break it down. So we always, both of us, chemical engineers and environmental engineers are, okay, looking at each other. Chemical engineers can play a dual role, they can also clean up, okay, but most of them end up creating the problem, okay, and we are the problem solvers, okay. So there is a lot of scope for research, okay. So I just want to show you some projects. Do you know where this place is? Can you guess? If you look, the bottom half of the picture looks like India, right? The top looks like somewhere abroad. Guess? Okay, this is London, okay, the heart of London, and that is River Thames. Can you believe it? You have seen beautiful pictures of Thames. The top half, I guess. Okay, so this Thames was like our rivers. Okay, what you see here is a real picture, but people got their act together and then made it beautiful, right? They made sure that it becomes clean, it becomes navigable, okay, and the whole entire tourist development is centered in London is around this Thames, okay. Again, we can see a lot of before after pictures in environmental cleanups, right. So this is dump sites, typically what we see in every city in India, okay, and the after effect, if we engineer a good landfill, then you create landfills like this, where it is not just a landfill, it protects the environment even though the waste is within there, and you can create your creativity can go anywhere, how to use that space. Okay, here they have used it as a solar field, okay, it is generating a lot of solar power. Some cities they have developed it as golf courses, beautiful parks, gardens, okay. So you can do whatever you want with the waste lying below that safely, okay. So air pollution, we know, I do not know how many of you know, when Olympics happened in Beijing, okay, 6 months or 8 months before the Olympics, they were going to cancel Olympics, okay. Do you know that? Everything was ready, but they had to they had taken a decision to cancel the Olympics, okay. Why? The only reason was the air pollution in Beijing. They decided that it is not safe for international people to travel to Beijing and be there that month for Olympics, okay. The air pollution was so bad, okay. Then China got its act together and immediately they just shut down all the industries in the vicinity of Beijing, okay, and inside Beijing, which were the major polluters. They stopped all the polluting cars, okay, in the periphery of the Olympic city, okay, and it was made possible. Okay. They took a commitment and it was made possible. Okay. So, we can, as I told you, we can reverse the damage, but it is better to prevent the damage. And nowadays, I think you might have seen this picture. What is that? The monument in the middle. It is an air purifier. China has built the largest air purifier. We have only seen indoor air purifiers, right. This is the largest outdoor air purifier right in the middle of downtown area, one of the downtown areas in Beijing. Okay. So, technology can make it possible. Okay. So, Beijing's air quality has improved drastically. Soon after the Olympics, they continued the measures whatever they took for Olympics, and you can see the before and after, the big picture. Okay. The smog, okay, just 8 months before the Olympics and what happened after that. Okay. Similarly, we can play a major role in water supply, lakes, rivers, wells, and also water from the sea. Okay. Environmental engineers are involved in design of large scale RO plants, okay, not just water from the ocean. Okay. The recent trend is what if you are not close to the ocean, right? If you are in the middle of somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, okay, we can also take water from the wastewater which we are discharging or the industries are discharging, that can also be purified to domestic use, okay, even drinkable. Okay. In your environmental engineering class, I usually take the students to a industry in Chennai where they buy wastewater from the municipality, the corporation or the metro water, okay. That is the household wastewater. They just buy it and treat it to RO quality water. It is same as what you get in your cans, okay. And I even demonstrated the assurance by drinking the water, okay. Some of the students really had the courage to drink it also, because they saw what they saw made them believe, right, it can be clean to drinkable levels. Okay. So, yeah, this is all what I was talking about, environmental impact assessment for projects. So, they futuristic projects. So, we have to cover all the domain areas. Okay. So, not only water and air, but also all the other geology, socio-economic impact of the project. It will not be our domain, there will be experts doing that. And then yeah, culture, archaeology, biodiversity, everything has to be put together in an environmental impact assessment report, okay, for approval of upcoming projects. Okay. So, next I would like to show some of the projects which our group was involved in the recent past, a few years from now. So, just to show you the breadth of our projects, okay, and what our students get involved in. Okay. So, many people may be from Andhra Pradesh here, right. So, this is a plant in Andhra Pradesh, it is an agri-chem plant. They call it agri-chem because it is a nice subtle way of saying they do not want to call it a pesticide plant, right. So, they call it agri-chem, but they mostly manufacture pesticides. Okay. And a lot of compounds, chemical compounds, organic compounds, solvents go into manufacturing of pesticides. Okay. So, this plant has been operational for at least 5 decades, at least 4 decades, and as I told you yesterday, previously what was considered a good practice and allowed by even the government or the regulators was to discharge the effluent from the factory into within the factory premises. They were allowed to discharge in ponds and let it evaporate. That is the only way they knew of disposing their effluents. Okay. So, these, as you see here, these are the ponds which were used to discharge all the industrial effluents from the factory is here. Okay. So, but beyond the factory around in this area, it was all villages. It was in the middle of an agricultural domain. There were like 7 different villages around the factory, and they had complaints about the water quality. Okay. So, the industry wanted to do an assessment, and we had investigated the quality of water in the pond, in the soil below the pond, below the water, and in the industry premises, and in the wells which are outside the pond. Okay. And a lot of different chemicals, as you see, you can look up and see what are the toxicity levels of these. These are, any chlorinated compound is supposed to be a toxic compound. The more the number of chlorine atoms, the more the toxicity. Okay. So, we got a large number of these chlorinated compounds which are supposed to be carcinogenic also. Okay. All right. So, this is another project in the river Krishna. Along the river Krishna, there was a paper and pulp unit, and they were discharging the water into an island in the middle of river Krishna. Okay. So, that is not a jolly tour, it was a official trip. This is the island. I wanted to show you how they bring the water across Krishna below the water and discharge it into the land within the island. Okay. So, this was an approved process by the regulators, but over a period of time the regulations changed, but the practices did not change. Okay. It continued, and now they are paying the price for it, and a lot of the river segment, Krishna river segment itself was contaminated because of discharges from this paper and pulp. Okay. Punjab, this is an industry textile hub for polyester, rayon, all those hubs are placed in Vardhaman Industries in Ludhiana. Okay. So, this is me doing some farming there, right. So, you do all fun stuff when you come to environmental engineering. Okay. So, what we did there was not just another field in Punjab, but they wanted to use their effluent for irrigating fields. This was the tail end of the irrigation. So, they were not getting any water. So, they wanted to use, they had a lot of industries in that area, okay, Ludhiana, the Malwa district. So, they decided to see whether this is of the quality of their effluent is good enough for agriculture. And most of Punjab, they grow, what do they grow? Wheat, only wheat? Anybody from Punjab? It was surprising to me until I went there, I did not realize they were also growing rice, right. One season they grow wheat, one season they grow rice. Okay. So, we grow the entire year, we did 2 seasons of farming, wheat and rice. 6 months it was wheat and 6 months it was rice, and we use the effluent in a managed way, treated, untreated combinations. We did a lot of trials, we had a lot of trial plots, and this was the engineer who was managing working with us. And this is the quality of the industrial effluent which before treatment, and then they do after treatment, several steps of treatment, and then it is discharged to the, these are the treatment processes. Okay. The cascade aerator, and then a clarifier, aeration tank. Okay. You learn all about this when you do environmental engineering. Okay. So, we did a lot of trials not only in the large fields, but we brought them also to IIT Madras, and we monitored the growth of plants. We monitored, what we monitoring here is the infiltration. Okay. How much is the percolation if we are going to discharge the treated effluent. We monitored the soil, okay, and we monitored the height of the plant, root size, okay, how much was the grain content, and we also monitored what is in the grains, because grains are of importance, right, that is what people are going to eat. Did any of the chemicals left over in the effluent and irrigated, it may get trapped in the soil, it may just go below, how much of it is actually ending up in the grains and also in the stem, because it is a fodder, right. We are not worried about just humans, we should also be thinking about the animals, the livestock, okay. So, a lot of experiments were done and we had a report and the report was not good, and that is when people do not like us, right. Until then everything is fine, industry comes to us, we go there, they give us a nice hotel and feed us and all that, okay. But when we submit the report, they do not like us, okay. It happens with every industry, okay. I just wanted to show you river Sutlej and this progressive farmer, okay. Can you believe this house behind is this farmer's house? People from Punjab know better, I guess. I was surprised going from down south, okay. And he was using this chromium contaminated water. So, that was the sad part, okay. So, yes, chromium comes not only from textile industries, also from leather. All of us have leather products, and right in Tamil Nadu we have the worst contaminated site for chromium, okay. That is Ranipet, that is a place called Ranipet. If some of you are going to take the elective, we offer an elective called hazardous waste treatment. We go on site visits to some of these places where you can see first hand, okay, how a contaminated site is and what is the status, okay. So, chromium is a very, very toxic metal, okay. I do not know if you know or not, chromium is everywhere, your keychain, this is nothing but the silver finish is nothing but chrome, right, chrome plated. So, everything which is having that stainless steel appearance is chrome plated, okay. And while they are plating it, electroplating industries also discharge these if they are not taking care about their effluent, okay. So, chromium is very abundantly present in our environment. This is the color of water in Ranipet, okay, orange, it is like an orange juice, right, very shallow aquifer, you will find orange juice directly, okay, you do not, okay. So, Ranipet, to give you an idea, chromium, permissible chromium in your water is 5 ppb, you know what is ppb, right, okay. And this is what you find in Ranipet groundwater, okay. 5 ppb is 0.005 milligram per liter, okay. But this is what you find in the groundwater, okay. In Chromepet where there are tannering industries, it is lower but still on the higher side of permissible limits. This is what you find in Pune, Vadodara, everywhere, Vadodara, okay. So, there are lot of issues apart from chromium in leather industries, not just chromium, but the entire process and the chemicals they use for tanning, okay, is really, really bad, okay. And that is why you will not find any tannery in any of the western countries, right. It is only in India, Bangladesh, okay, Thailand maybe. Similarly, you will not find any textile dyeing unit in any of the western countries, okay. Paper and pulp, no, right, they are very smart, okay. Another site close to our home in Chennai, okay. What you see here, this is the biggest fishing harbor of the country, I would say. It is a huge fishing harbor with a large export market, okay. All you see here in the background is big ships or sailing boats which go for fishing, okay, and they bring loads of fish. But one fine day they stopped selling fish, and the women usually sell the fish when the boats bring the fish back to the coast. The women usually sell fish, okay. But one fine day 4 years ago, the women stopped selling fish and they were selling lube oil. Guess where they came from? Not from the ship. So, they started when it was actually coming out of their wells, okay. There was so much in their wells, okay. Lube oil spill had happened. North Chennai is very, if you Google and see Chennai's geography, we have the port, okay, almost near the beach, okay, and from the port is a source of lot of oil going in, a lot of oil traffic happens. We have a refinery up north, so all the crude from the port goes to the refinery, it gets it gets refined and then it gets distributed to different parts of the country, okay, at least the southern part of India. Okay. So, there are a lot of pipelines crisscrossing entire North Chennai. Okay. If you are coming by train, you will not miss these huge cylindrical storage structures, right. These are all oil terminals which store these refined and crude. Okay. So, pipeline spills like this are very, very common if you talk to somebody in North Chennai. It has been going on for a long time and people have learned to live with it, okay, but when it started impacting their water, the groundwater which is the source of their water supply, one fine day they were getting oil in their groundwater, they could burn it, people even were driving their TVS 50 in the water which they got from their well, right. It was so high, it was just oil. Okay. So, yeah, this is the oil from the water from their bore well. It is pretty bad, and oil spills happen everywhere, not only in pipeline spills, in drilling sites which happen inland. There are not only offshore drilling sites, but also onshore, right. This is in Assam where there are drilling sites, and even down south in Tamil Nadu we have onshore drilling sites in Nagapattinam and other areas. Okay. So, it is a really messed up place and everything ends up in the groundwater. Not only that, every petrol bunk where you go and fill up your gas, petroleum, okay, there is a huge cylinder at the bottom of these tanks where we fill in, and most if it is more than 20-30 years old, it is corroded, and once it is corroding, then you have a spill, a constant spill. Okay. So, several ways petroleum goes into the groundwater, and again these are having some compounds which are very toxic, very carcinogenic. BTEX, the nice aroma what you get when you fill your gas is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, okay, PAHs abbreviated, and these are all carcinogenic. So, make sure that you do not inhale deeply when you are in a petrol bunk. Okay. Keep your car doors up, make sure you do not get exposed. Okay. It is sad people work there throughout the day, okay. And that is why they are paid very high. I do not know how many of you know, people in the oil sector, they are paid very high, just like marine engineers. They are risking their lives, okay. Maybe they do not know it, okay, but it is happening. Okay. So, I will not go too deep. I just have some slides here to show how we did the investigations in Tandayarpet, the oil spill site. So, we had drills, we had like vapor analyzers to check what is in the air when the spill had occurred, and then this is the actual samples of oil collected from the bore well after we drilled in. This is inside the house, okay. It was right inside the house. And so, we do some forensic science also, because when there is a spill and there is no industry nearby, everybody will say it is not mine, right. So, people were trying to point fingers at a petrol bunk, at somewhere, they did not accept that it was a pipeline spill. So, we have to do forensic to see what is the sample. This was the fingerprint of a GC, gas chromatograph of the sample collected from the site. And then you try to match it with this is petrol, fingerprint of petrol. Petrol has only small carbon compounds like up to about C9, okay, 9 carbon atoms. This is diesel, okay. So, you know what spilled, okay, and who is the source of the diesel, whose pipeline was carrying diesel, then you know who the origin is, who is the culprit, okay. So, we do a lot of this forensic. Anybody is interested in this, I think there is a taste of forensic in environmental engineering, okay. And then you do multiple boreholes. We did about 25 boreholes in that particular area. These are the two major highways where the spill had occurred, and then once we have the data, everything is out there. We exactly mapped what is below the ground by just doing these boreholes and sampling. We know where the oil has spread, and we also know below the groundwater what is the concentration of the different chemicals, okay, and how far away they are. So, we do not have much time, 10 more minutes. I would just like to show some of the other projects. People interested in biodiversity, we have a very nice beautiful marshland, okay, with 100 different species of birds coming there every year. It is called Pallikarnai marshland. It is just about 5 kilometers from IIT. If you want to spend a nice weekend, you should go there. Okay. So, this is IIT Madras and this is the Pallikarnai marshland. Okay. What we see here in the graph is only about 20-30% of what it was. Okay. It was like all the way below. It was extending, and our IT corridor has taken away most of the marshland. What is left behind is that, and that is also contaminated by, what do you see here? Do you know? Right in the middle of the marshland, marshland are supposed to be highly rich in biodiversity. They also clean up our environment. They are very valuable. We only talk about lakes, rivers, okay. Marshland is also a very important water body, okay. Although we do not take water from there, it is highly biodiversity rich, and it has as a sink for all the waste. It also acts as a flood protection region, okay. It is usually between the lake and the ocean, and anything which overflows stays in the marshland, okay. So, such a marshland was impacted by, what do you see here? Do you know? An aerial view of a, it is hard to imagine, you should go there. Last week we were there on a field trip. It is the Chennai's one of the 2 dump sites, okay, and the dump site is nothing but a solid waste dump, right. It is not an engineered landfill like what I showed, nice beautiful landfill, okay. 3,000 tons of waste come here every day from half of Chennai, okay, and slowly it started growing. In 20 years, it has already encroached the entire width of the marshland, and it is moving, okay. This is the close-up view of the dump site and the marshland. Yeah, that is how the marshland got shrunk at different times of the year, of the decade. It is another image, okay. So, yeah, there is so much opportunity to reverse things, first starting with the solid waste and then working on restoring the marshland back to its pristine conditions, okay. So, I think I will skip some of these other projects which we are involved and go directly to the last slide. We have only about 5 more minutes left. So, I think I hope I have given an overview, okay, of all the different types of projects which you can be involved when you become an environmental engineer. And also I wanted to stop talking about, I did this in the first slide, but again I like these circles, okay. So, everything is centered around being learning environmental science and engineering. You can go to any of these domains, okay. You can choose what you want to be, or it can be a combination, okay. You can teach and also do research and consult and do all this assessments just like how we are doing, right. Or you can be a solid engineer who can just be on the site, design, build, okay, put it in place, okay, and that will give you a lot of satisfaction, okay, to change, be the change maker, okay, and that impacts the society a lot. That is what I want to conclude by telling, okay. Being an environmental engineer, I always felt a great sense of satisfaction talking to people, okay, in the site, like Tandayarpet site. I have been visiting them for the last 5 years, and my friends always comment that I can become I can stand for an MLA position in that location. Everybody knows me, right, and people welcome me to their homes, and that is the connect you establish when you work on projects which can impact the community, okay. We do a lot of lake restoration projects in South Chennai, okay. So, I will be happy if any of you are interested. You can always join the team when they go and visit these sites and see for yourself what is happening And yeah, I think I conclude with this statement. Environmental engineers, we often think why civil engineering, why again, so environment seems to be at the bottom of the civil engineering also, right. People look at structures and other engineering within civil engineering, okay. But I often think environmental engineers play a much bigger role than even medical professionals. Medical, they say it's a noble profession, right. You treat people and you get them overcome their diseases and pain and suffering, right. I often value environmental engineers much better than even medical doctors. Can you tell me why? I think you got the answer, yes. So, we do not even, we do the prevention rather than taking care of them after they get into some kind of a health issue, okay. So, prevention in the true sense, I would say, okay, not only for humans, also for the ecosystem, okay. So, I will stop here and I will see you at the discussion session. And one important thing, it is not just of course money and development is important, we are not underplaying anything when you are an environmental engineer. If you look at, you know, L&T is the biggest construction company, right, or one of the biggest, okay. Go and talk, look at L&T's turnover. Right now, none of their building projects, if you put all their building projects and all their water projects, okay, their biggest turnover, actually it is 2 to 3 times their building projects. The water and wastewater components of L&T's projects have tripled than even their building projects, okay. There is so much infrastructure development going on in the country, and there is a lot of scope for water supply, wastewater treatment. The entire country is on a renovation path, right. Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission, lot of schemes are there which are promoting water projects. Every town, every city, every little town should have its own treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, solid waste management plant. So, I think in the next few years, okay, there is a lot of opportunity, and all the big multinationals are setting their base in India, environmental companies, CDM Smith, ERM, all these big names, right, AECOM, these are all big environmental multinational companies who are setting up their base in India, okay. So, they know better, they have done their research. So, that itself will indicate that, okay, what kind of a prospect you will be having if you choose to specialize in environmental engineering, okay. Thank you.